Well, there are a couple ways to answer that. Probably the biggest one, the best way, if I have to choose a single way to answer that question, is the thing that connects everything that Amazon does is the number one conviction and idea and philosophy and principle, which is customer obsession as opposed to competitor obsession. And so we are always focused on the customer, working backwards from the customer's needs, developing new skills internally so that we can satisfy what we perceive to be future customer needs. We have a whole working backwards process that starts with the customer needs and works backwards. You don't choose your passions choose you. And I would always advise young people, actually anyone, to get in touch with what you're really passionate about. And it's a gift to have a passion. Some people are lucky they have more than one passion, they have two or three. And that gives you energy. You can't force a passion on yourself. It just doesn't work. You can try, but it's unlikely to succeed. I guess my advice on adversity and success would be to be proud not of your gifts, but of your hard work and your choices. So, you may be, the kinds of gifts you get, like, you might be really good at math. It might be really easy for you. That's a kind of gift. But practicing that math and taking it to the next step, that could be very challenging and hard and take a lot of sweat. That's a choice. You can't really be proud of your gifts because they were given to you. You can be grateful for them and thankful for them. But your choices, you choose to work hard. You choose to do hard things. Those are choices that you can be proud of. But we have a very inventive culture, so we like to pioneer and invent. There are other very effective business strategies. Pioneering is not the only effective business strategy. In fact, some people would argue it's not the most effective one. Close following can be a very good business strategy, and it's worked many times if you look at the history of business. But it just isn't who we are. Willingness to think long term. I think that's another common thread that runs through every single thing we do. We are very happy to invest in new initiatives that are very risky for 5 to 7 years, which most companies won't do that. The companies will invest for very long periods of time, and they should in those cases where the outcomes are more certain. It's the combination of the risk-taking and the long-term outlook that make Amazon not unique, but special in a smaller crowd. And then finally, taking real pride in operational excellence. So just doing things well, finding defects and working backwards. So that's all the incremental improvement that in business, most successful companies are very good at this one. If you're not good at finding defects, finding the root cause of the defects, fixing that root cause, you don't ever want to let defects flow downstream. That's a key part of doing a good job in any business, in my opinion. And so that's a very important way of thinking, and I find it works with everything. I mean, you have to back up and find the right time horizon for what you're trying to do. But at Amazon, we probably do most of our things. We expect to get some results in sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 years. But we find a lot of our other companies that compete against us in various ways, they're often trying to get things done in 2 or 3 years. And so we can do things that, if everything has to work in 2 to 3 years, then that limits what you can do. If you give yourself the breathing room to say, okay, I'm okay if it takes 7 years, all of a sudden you have way more opportunities.
You made it. Was there a moment you thought, I might not make it?
The riskiest moment for Amazon, Charlie, was at the very, very beginning. I needed to raise $1 million at a certain point, and I ended up giving away 20% of the company for $1 million.
It's a hell of a deal for somebody.
A lot of people did very well on that deal. But they also took a risk, so they deserved to do very well on that deal. But I had to take 60 meetings to raise $1 million, and I raised it from 22 people at approximately $50,000 a person. And it was nip and tuck whether I was going to be able to raise that money. So the whole thing could have ended before it even started. That was 1995,
and the first question every investor asked me was, what's the internet?
For me, adventure is you can choose. We all get to choose our life stories, and it's the choices that define us, not our gifts. Everybody in this room has many gifts. I have many gifts. You can never be proud of your gifts because they're gifts. They were given to you. You might be, tall, or you might be really good at math, or you might be extremely beautiful or handsome, or there are many gifts, and you can only be proud really of your choices because those are the things that you are acting on. And one of the most important choices that each of us has, and you know this just as well as I do, is you can choose a life of ease and comfort, or you can choose a life of service and adventure. And when you're 80, which one of those things do you think you're going to be more proud of? You're going to be more proud of having chosen a life of service and adventure. You see this in your firefighting work and everything else you do, Robin Hood, and so on and so on. And I feel that is, for me, adventure is a shorthand way of thinking about that.
Pride of your choices, not your gifts. This is something that I think is super important for young people to understand, and for parents to preach to young people. It's really easy for a talented young person to take pride in their gifts. They can say, I'm really athletic, or I'm really smart, or I'm really good at math. And that's fine. You should celebrate your gifts. You should be happy, but you can't be proud of them because they're gifts after all. They were given to you. What you can be proud of is your choices. How did you decide to use your gifts? Did you study hard? Did you work hard? Did you practice? The people who really excel combine gifts and hard work. And the hard work part is a choice. You get to decide that. And that is something, when you're looking back on your life, you'll be very proud of. Be right. Be right a lot. This is one of, Amazon has 14 leadership principles, and this is the one that often catches people a little by surprise. Because one of our leadership principles is that good leaders are right a lot. And it sounds kind of like, well, great, but is there some way that I can practice being right a lot? And you're not going to be right all the time, but I do think with practice, you can be right more often. And I've observed people who are right a lot, and I notice a few things about them. The first is that people who are right a lot, they listen a lot. And people who are right a lot change their mind a lot. And people who are right a lot, they seek to disconfirm their most profoundly held convictions, which is very unnatural for humans. So humans mostly, as we go about life, we're very selective in the evidence that we let seep into us. And we like to observe the evidence that confirms our pre-existing beliefs. And people who are right a lot work very hard to do that unnatural thing of trying to disconfirm their beliefs. And by the way, changing your mind a lot is so important. You should never let anybody trap you with anything you've said in the past, because that is life is complicated, the world is complicated, and sometimes you get new data. And when you get new data, you should change your mind. By the way, sometimes you don't get new data and you just reanalyze the situation and you realize it's more complicated than you initially thought it was, and you change your mind. This is something, it's frustrating to watch, and I will not get into politics here tonight, but it's frustrating to watch politicians because they're almost not allowed to change their mind. As soon as they change their mind, they get accused of being flip-floppers. When reality is, anybody who doesn't change their mind a lot is dramatically underestimating the complexity of the world that we live in.
Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. Click that bell icon to never miss the release of a video.